Today, remembering conservative icon Rush Limbaugh. And also, Joe Biden thinks that minorities are too stupid to figure out where to get vaccines. And I think how to use computers. We've got a lot coming up, and it starts right now. Hey, welcome to the news and why it matters. I'm Sarah Gonzalez reporting to you live from the Arctic tundra. Today joined by Glenn Beck, who really needs no introduction. Glenn Beck and Pat Gray from Pat Gray Unleashed. And we were just talking off air. We can't remember the last time you guys were on the show together.
I know, it's been a while.
So, yeah,
I was thinking about what they said about Rush, you know, how he has worked with people for 30 years.
Yeah.
And I thought, I've had that anchor around my neck too. No, Pat and I have worked together since Rush. I mean, we had a break because we broke up for a while and went our separate ways, saw other people and other hosts.
How did that go?
It was, well, we're back together.
Right.
But you know, we've been together since Rush first started, 1989.
Yeah.
And it's
like 32 years.
Yeah, that's when he started. I remember the first time I heard Rush Limbaugh.
So
we were together. We were in Baltimore.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. And we were talking about, I remember this was probably not the first time I heard him, but I remember we used to go to that place called McCabe's in Baltimore.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we had heard that there were places that were starting up called rush rooms, where people would go into restaurants and the owner would be conservative and you could listen to the show. Amongst a lot of people, and people started to get to know each other, and conservatives started to get together because of the Rush rooms.
And in those days, Rush would sometimes show up for events like that. If they had a really big one, he would go to those things. Back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, I was fortunate enough to hear him speak at a Turning Point event. When was it? Last year. And he was just, you know, it was incredible. I mean, I'm sure, you know, you knew him better than either of us, but I listened to him all throughout college. It was like, I'm sure I annoyed the crap out of my roommates.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because
in college, they might throw you into college jail.
Yeah. So, but I did not miss a show of Rush Limbaugh. And I remember when I was leaving college, I considered writing him and Sean Hannity notes asking if they needed any interns, because I just consumed it nonstop, and I wanted more and more and more. And I said this online, but you know, I was raised conservative. I was lucky enough to have those values instilled in me, but Rush seemed to, you know, make people passionate about conservatism in a way that no one did thus far. Right? Like, he was just a pioneer at that.
Well, Pat and I both started in radio in the 70s. So we've been doing radio for a very long time. Rush was a failed top 40 kind of guy. When we were successful, he was struggling. And then AM radio was over. And he is the guy who brought it back. The guy who really couldn't succeed in top 40 radio. He had said at one point he was so frustrated because he knew he would be successful. He just didn't know how or where. And he said he was so frustrated at one point he lost job after job after job, had to move back in with his parents, and he took a baseball bat out and he just started banging things in his backyard because he had to get his frustration out. And then, just by really the luck of somebody who was really a visionary, working for ABC News, that took part of his salary in satellite time when satellites weren't used for anybody, he happened to hook up with that guy, and the rest is history. And everybody said he wouldn't be successful.
Well, I'm glad that he ended up proving them wrong. So, of course, there was someone who happened to be conservative who passed away. So leftists wasted no time just being complete, just human garbage about it.
Well, but you're looking at Bette Midler. Look at the Bette Midler quote. She's human garbage.
Yes.
I mean, it's the same circle of people. And, you know, look at the quotes, and I'm sure there were people, but look at the quotes from leaders of the conservative movement when what's her name died, when
Ruth Bader
Ginsburg. Remember what Trump even said?
Yeah, and we have that. Let's listen to then President Trump reacting. He was just walking off stage from a rally that he had just completed.
And remember, this is a guy who says anything.
Right.
He could say anything. Listen to what he said off the top of his head.
I didn't know that. I just, you're telling me now for the first time. She led an amazing life. What else can you say? She was an amazing woman. Whether you agreed or not, she was an amazing woman who led an amazing life. I'm actually sad to hear that. I am sad to hear that.
Now, was there a bigger enemy on the left and did more damage in the opinion of conservatives than Ruth Bader Ginsburg?
Yeah, I mean,
probably not.
Yeah.
And that's just class.
Total class.
It's just a total class act right off the top of his head. Not, she's probably burning in hell right now. Yeah. None of that.
Yeah.
That she was a great person who did a lot.
You don't have to agree with her.
Yeah.
She was
I don't even think you have to say she was a great person. Yeah, but she achieved a lot.
Yes, she did.
She did.
She did.
And so did Rush Limbaugh.
Right.
Rush Limbaugh saved and recreated an entire industry from the people that sell their wares on radio, on AM radio, to people who build the transmitters or fix the transmitters for AM radio. The jobs that he created and saved is remarkable. Remarkable.
Do you remember AM stereo?
Oh, yeah.
Remember how that was supposed to save AM radio?
Yeah.
Because they were trying to get music to work on AM radio, and it just didn't.
I mean, you could get the same crappy static in two channels.
Yeah. So Rush came along, and he really saved AM radio single-handedly.
Yeah.
And transformed talk radio at the same time.
He is the reason the Blaze exists. If he wouldn't have blazed the trail, I mean, maybe somebody else would have, but if he was Coca-Cola and he was the first in, and because he was so successful, he allowed people, I mean, he said, I read an article that came out about what he said about me, and he was on the Today Show, and he said, look at what I spawned. And that was the headline, trying to make it sound like he was, spawning devil children. And he said, I listen to Glenn Beck and I think, right on. And he said something that couldn't be more true. He is a result of my success. Absolutely true.
Yeah.
Absolutely true.
Yeah.
And if he wouldn't have blazed that trail, we wouldn't have been able to get in and do this. And on top of it, we wouldn't have done the Blaze. I mean, conservatives have platforms now because he showed us that conservatives could be successful, that there was an appetite. In 1988, 89, I mean, Jack Swanson is a good friend of mine, KGO in San Francisco. He passed on him. He said, I don't think this is going to work. People aren't going to listen to that conservative thing for that long. They didn't have any idea the pent-up desire.
Yeah.
He showed us that it worked. He is the guy who did a television show that just kept getting relegated later and later at night. But the guy who produced the show was Roger Ailes, who went on to do Fox News.
Wow.
And let's not forget, not only did he revolutionize radio and was number one in almost every market for 30 some years, he also revolutionized really the Republican Party and conservatism. He explained conservatism to people in a way that they could understand it and digest it and then go and tell their friends about it.
You can't,
and that's huge.
You can't understand the impact if you weren't politically aware in the 80s. You can't understand the impact, the shock that Rush Limbaugh was. You didn't hear people say abortion was wrong unless it was in church.
Right.
Okay? You never heard that. You felt alone. the news was 30 minutes a day. And 5 minutes at the top of the hour. You didn't talk really about politics. You got it from the newspaper or from the news, and you didn't hear opinions. So you'd walk around and you'd be like, man, it must just be me. No, no. It's the same thing that Drudge did with Monica Lewinsky. All of the news media is saying, not true, not true, not true. And then here comes this upstart guy, Matt Drudge, puts it online and changes everything. Rush was more impactful than that.
Which is, I guess, why I saw, you see in the mainstream media the headlines stating that Rush passed away. And I think it was maybe it was the New York Times who said, Rush Limbaugh, who turned conservative talk radio into, attack machine, dies.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Please.
And then you think about the way that they covered. What was it? Soleimani, who was an austere scholar. And the people that they have in the past talked about when they have died, Fidel Castro. I mean, just all of these people who they speak highly of. Mm-hmm. But Rush Limbaugh turned conservative talk radio into, an attack machine.
They had to say that about him. They had to. Because what Pat just said is true. They never listened to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He did the show for people who listened to him. You cannot program a show to people who aren't listening, who are just the media matters of the world. Mm-hmm. But they knew how critical it was to shut him down. That's why they went for the fairness doctrine, and he's the one who stopped the fairness doctrine coming back. I think we're in trouble in talk radio because the king is dead. But they needed to shut him down because he was so effective. And the only way, you couldn't say, listen to him and then we'll meet here and we can argue the point, because he was changing minds. So you had to make him into this pariah. I would bet my house that I could take 5 names just out of random of all those Bette Midler, all those people. I bet my house that they've never listened to a full episode of the Rush Limbaugh Show. Not once. I'll bet you the majority of them haven't heard anything but a clip.
If that.
Out of context, probably.
Yeah,
if that. Context. Well, it strikes me because we could go through them, but I don't think we need to. You probably get the gist if you hadn't seen them on Twitter. I know Rest in Piss was trending. Along with Good Riddance when talking about Rush Limbaugh. I mean, it was just nasty, nasty stuff. And you look at all these people, and I'm thinking to myself, these are the same people who said we could not possibly have President Trump back because he was so awful, so mean-spirited, such a mean guy. He tweeted mean things. And then you see this from them, and you're like,
we have to unite.
Right,
we have to be kind to one another.
Yes.
Unite.
And I'm like, this doesn't seem, Pat, to be very kind.
No, kind or tolerant. What happened to the word tolerant? They don't even use the word tolerant anymore because they're the opposite. Yeah. And they have been for some time.
Well, you know what they sometimes they do. I hear them say, we're not tolerant against white supremacists, racists, xenophobic, homophobic, I mean, they that's their excuse. That's how they justify it. It's just, well, no, we are tolerant, but we're not supposed to be tolerant of bad people.
Hitler?
Right. All right, we have got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Keeps. In case you maybe have noticed your hair isn't looking as full as it's used to. I don't know. I'm not talking about anyone at the table, so don't worry.
I don't know what you're talking
about. But seriously, if you are maybe in the process of losing your hair, number one, it's not fun. Number two, we know if you're a guy, at least, you're not going to go to the doctor. You guys don't go to the doctor for anything, all right? But you can try Keeps from the comfort of your own home. You will get the same doctor-recommended, FDA-approved hair loss treatment, but it's the generic version. So you're going to save a ton of money. Also, Keeps is totally online, so you can answer a couple pictures, answer a couple questions, take a couple pictures of your hair, and a doctor is going to review it and send the correct hair loss treatment right to your door. You don't have to, if you're in Texas, you don't have to go out into the Arctic storm. You can do it all from home. We can get you started with an awesome deal. You can go to keeps.com. That is KEEPS.com/Y for 50% off of your first order. That is keeps.com/Y. Remember, these are generic versions and you're getting 50% off of that. It's a steal. There's no reason not to. It is keeps.com/Y. Back in a minute. Joe Biden, in a recent town hall, basically said that Black and Hispanic Americans, look, they might be able to get the vaccine if they only knew how to open up a computer and figure out how to use the internet long enough to find where to get the vaccines. He's taking a little bit of heat for it. Here's Joe Biden.
The other portion is a lot of people don't know how to register. Not everybody in the community, in the Hispanic and the African American community, particularly in rural areas that are distant and or inner city districts, know how to
basically everywhere
know how to get online to determine how to get in line for that COVID vaccination at the Walgreens or at the particular store.
How do they get away with this stuff?
It's
He is
incredible.
calling minorities stupid.
But only those in cities
and
or outside
not
of the
in cities. Okay.
Right.
All
They don't
right.
know how to get onto the computer.
No, it's
I
really
like the way he
complicated.
did that too. In case a black were watching it, they know what he was talking about. Now,
This is the
if an
keyboard
Asian
right here?
woman,
Okay.
they might have thought he needs his nails done. What? I don't know what that means. Oh my gosh.
Unbelievable. Plus, they don't have IDs either. They can't be expected to have an ID.
No. And if they
don't know how to
leave
get
the
'em.
house, they're going to be beaten to death by the cops.
Right.
Because we all know who the
Right.
cops are.
Yeah.
They're the racists, not me. I'm just trying to help out those minorities that don't really know how to log on to the internet. Oh my gosh.
I mean, number one, this is from a guy who
Wow.
talked about making sure your kids listen to record players. Okay,
Yes,
but
yeah.
apparently it's
Put the
us
record on
minorities.
at night.
Yeah,
What?
who don't know how to get on the computer. But this isn't the first time he has made that sort of comment about minorities.
Well, you kind of feel bad, kind of.
Do you?
Well, kind of, because, and this is not an excuse, when your grandfather gets to be the time to go away, they'll say things like that. Okay. Now, he's not my grandfather. If he was my grandfather, if he was my dad, if he was, my great uncle, I'd be telling my family, let's not let Grandpa out.
Yeah.
Let's just, shh, Grandpa. Okay? So I feel bad because he is somebody's grandpa, and they're like, good God, what is he saying? Feel bad there. But he chose it, and so did the family. He should be held to exactly the same standard as the cancel culture demands.
Did you see the news story that came out about how Kamala is having the head of state calls? Like she made a call to Macron, and then I know she talked to Justin Trudeau. What are your thoughts on that?
It's nappy nap time at 7 o'clock for Joe Biden. Sometimes those international calls have to come in after 7 o'clock, and he's sleeping. He's seepy-seeps.
I think they're afraid of what he might say to him. I think the guy has degraded to the point where he can't be trusted with calls to heads of state. And they knew this before the election.
Yeah.
They knew it a year ago, a year and a half ago, and they ignored it. In fact, they kept pushing him. Dr. Jill Biden especially just kept pushing him. She knows he's degrading. She knows it.
You can tell by the way that she always tries to rescue him and bail him out.
Always.
And stuff.
Yep.
She's coming up to his defense.
Well, I thought it was really interesting on what a close ally Israel is. And it wasn't until, 2 days ago that he actually called the
Did he
prime
finally
minister?
call?
He did. He did, only because people were like, you haven't called Israel? What? Where? I don't. My shoes.
And his spokesperson can't even decide whether or not Israel's a close ally. It's unbelievable.
Did you see NBC News? They tweeted out a list of places that Joe Biden had talked to, and they said our allies, and they listed a bunch of places and included China as an ally. I was like, I'm sorry? What was
Major
that?
funder. Major funding for the United States of America comes from the People's Republic of China.
Not scary at all. Another thing Joe Biden getting hit a little bit for in his town hall is This is from his own side, though, so he's getting it from both sides, which is always nice to see. A woman asked him about student loan debt forgiveness, because, hey, if you're going to give $10,000, why not give $50,000? But by the way, if you're going to give $50,000, why not give $100,000, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's the same thing with minimum wage.
Yeah, right.
Why have a basic minimum wage?
Yeah.
Right.
Why not make it $80 an hour?
Or $100.
Or $100 or $1,000 an hour? Why don't we make everyone a millionaire?
Yeah.
Why? Let's all live it up.
Right. But here's Joe Biden being asked why not just up that student loan debt forgiveness. Here's what he had to say.
Loans are crushing my family, friends, and fellow Americans.
Me too.
The American dream is
I'm
to
kidding.
succeed,
think
but
I'm
how
kidding?
can we fulfill that dream when debt is many people's only option for a degree? We need student loan forgiveness beyond the potential $10,000 your administration has proposed. We need at least a $50,000 minimum.
Please.
What will you do to make that happen?
I will not make that happen. Depends on whether or not you go to a private university or a public university. It depends on the idea that I say to a community, I'm going to forgive the debt, the billions of dollars of debt for people who have gone to Harvard and Yale and Penn and schools. My children, I went to a great school, I went to a state school. But is that going to be forgiven rather than use that money to provide for early education for young children who come from disadvantaged circumstances? But here's what I think. I think everyone, and I've been proposing this for 4 years, everyone should be able to go to community college for free. For free. That costs $9 billion, and we should pay for it. And the tax policies we have now, we should be able to pay for it. You spend almost that much money as a break for people who own racehorses. And I think any family making under $125,000 whose kids go to a state university they get into, that should be free.
It's a state university. It's not a federal university. It's a state university. If the states would like to do that, the states can.
Well, he had apparently, because he's getting heat about this from his own
bet.
party,
Sure.
they're backtracking, and they said they ended up coming out and saying, his spokesperson said, well, he likes the idea of 10,000, but he's not sure if he actually has the authority to go ahead with the 50.
Yeah, I now wondered where that loophole was. Because the House has the strings of the purse,
Right.
not the president.
Right.
He can't just reach into the wallet and go, hey, it's only $4 billion. The Constitution clearly says over $10 billion. It doesn't say that.
Right.
He can't go in and reach in for a hamburger and pay back on Tuesday. He has no authority.
Yeah.
And why should taxpayers pay for that? Why? I shouldn't have to pay for your college education. Why?
I wanted to go. You remember.
Decided.
I wanted to go to college so badly. It was so important that I got an education. I could afford one class. One. I took and I milked
And you
that
paid
class.
for it.
And I paid for it. And I milked it for everything it was worth.
What class was it?
Early Christology.
Really?
Yeah. And I took it at Yale. One class is all I could afford. Why should somebody have to pay for me?
They shouldn't. We shouldn't have to pay for anybody.
No.
Pay for your own college. Work before school.
Here's an idea.
Save money.
Get government out of the loan process. Get them the hell out of our banks and out of our universities. And you know what? People will be able to afford it. Because the free market will crush that system. You've got billions of dollars in your trust. You know that a study was done on Harvard. Harvard could provide, for 6 Harvards around the country for like 20 years.
They could send 20. They have an enrollment of 25,000 kids per year. They could fund all 25,000 going to Harvard for free for 25 years with their endowment of $40 billion.
They could also.
That's Harvard's endowment.
Yeah.
UT in Austin is about 28 or 30 billion now. And a lot of that's in gold.
There was
Let them pay for it.
Right.
There was a study on Harvard on why not have Harvard, but then have Harvards for free. Build 6 of them around the country. Now, it's not that Harvard,
Right.
but it is overseen by that Harvard
Yeah.
and paid for. Why not put 6 of them and give it to inner city kids, give it to anybody free? Oh, no. No, we cannot do that.
All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor of the segment, Built Bar, which I think everyone at this table
Loves.
Loves, by the way.
how amazing Built Bar is.
Thank you for the coconut
Oh my gosh.
brownie. Oh,
Isn't it
my
amazing?
gosh, that's amazing. Have you had it yet?
No.
The coconut brownie
Oh.
chunk. You got it. There's got to be a box for you.
Coconut
We got
brownie
to find
chunk.
it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it is fantastic.
It's amazing. It's okay. So there's a lot of people out here who have started trying Built Bar. So many, in fact, that I read a podcast review yesterday who included in their podcast review. Also, thank you for turning us on to Built Bar because they're
That's great.
amazing. It's really good if you're looking to lose weight, maintain weight, or you just you're going to your pantry all the time.
Do you remember when we were doing Atkins? These are keto friendly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you remember what those things used to taste
yeah.
like? It was
The
like
chemical
eating, it was like
aftertaste.
eating
Nasty.
a Dow chemical plant.
It
Awful.
was.
Which Stuber Gear might like, but we don't.
Right,
you
Right. So if it's a protein bar, but it's delicious. You're going to think that you're eating a candy bar. So if you're suffering through like these cravings and you're going to your pantry and you're eating all of these things that you don't want to talk about because you're embarrassed, don't do that. Get Built Bar instead. You can eat something healthy and also satisfy your cravings. Trust us on this, okay? They're all covered in 100% chocolate. They've got a ton of flavors. They're delicious. Glenn mentioned the coconut brownie chunk. You don't want to miss out on those. Don't sleep on them. They are amazing. You can go to BuiltBar.com, use promo code NEWS20. You'll get 20% off your next order. That is Built Bar, BUILT bar.com. Use promo code NEWS20 for 20% off. Back in a minute. All right, White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki said that the Biden administration is open to considering reparations depending on, the progress that Congress makes on their study that they are doing. We'll listen to Jen Psaki.
Well, he's supported a study of reparations, which I believe is what's being discussed, and studying the continuing impacts of slavery, which is being discussed in this hearing on H.R. 40, I believe it is. And he continues to demonstrate his commitment to take comprehensive action to address the systemic racism that persists today. Obviously, that is having that study is a part of that, but he has signed an executive order on his first day, which would begin to deliver on his commitment to having an across government approach to addressing racial inequality and making sure equity is a part of his entire policy agenda. But he certainly would support a study of reparations. And we understands that we don't need a study to take action right now on systemic racism, so he wants to take actions within his own government in the meantime.
So let me just tell you what that actually means. Here's what this actually means. Look, we have tried to cripple this nation for a very long time, run it into bankruptcy for a very long time. First, we were just spending more money and we thought, hey, we could spend more money. We should be a giant war machine and a giant gift machine to not only the people in America, but more importantly, to the rest of the world. We thought that started out with good intentions, and then we thought, wow, we can enrich ourselves too. So we've been raising taxes. We've been making energy more expensive because, well, that's how business gets done, is with energy. That's how people move and progress, with energy. So we've raised taxes, regulation. We're going to jack energy like crazy. We've got the Green New Deal, which will impoverish people. Don't forget, we're also the authors of the COVID plan to bankrupt every small business, to bankrupt every person who is struggling. Then we're going to give the money not to white people, but to black people. We've got all these things going on. I'm sure I've left some things out, but hey, if there's any money left, we're going to make sure that we do reparations as well. This is the greatest theft of national wealth ever in the history of the world. This is the Italian job. This is the American job. They're driving minis the size of 18-wheelers, and they're flying them out of this country. They're driving them out. If they have to drop them on a tarmac in Iran, or you have to drop it at the WHO, or you have to drop it at the UN or some climate bullcrap, they'll do it. But they are taking and bankrupting America to bring her down to the level of third world countries.
It's it's redistribution of wealth too. It's the same Marxist plan that progressives have been working on for 120 years now, and we just have not stood up to this. We haven't put a stop to it, which we should have done many, many years ago. But the plan is so far down the road now. This is going to be really hard to stop, because now that they're working hand in hand with Black Lives Matter and Antifa and corporations. This is finally going to happen. I think reparations are finally going to happen.
Well, but have you considered that as a minority, I don't know how to use the computer, so I need the
Well, that's what
money.
we're counting on. We're counting on that all the minorities are just so stupid, they won't know how to use the computer, so they won't be able to go down to Walmart or wherever you get those reparations and get them. And if they get them, we can give them $1 and tell them it's $1 million. They can't read. Oh my gosh.
It is very insulting. Okay, one more thing on what the Biden administration is doing while we're on the subject. They actually have instructed the Department of Homeland Security officials to use more inclusive language to describe people who are here illegally. So they've got to drop the word alien and replace it with non-citizen. You can't even say immigrant, apparently. You've got to use the word
illegal.
Non-citizen.
You can say immigrant.
Yes,
you can't
not
say
illegal. Right,
immigrant.
sorry. Non-citizen, according to a memo that was recently issued.
I think that's really Why use the negative?
That's a great point.
I mean, that hurts. When you say you're a non-whatever.
No, you're just an undocumented citizen at this point, right?
I mean, I just think it's really good that they're tackling the issues that are really plaguing society today, like what kind of language we use when we talk about people who are illegally here breaking the law, and reparations.
Does anybody actually really spend any time, this is a serious question, does anybody spend any serious time, I have, thinking, I really hope the alien thing is true so they can come down and either save us or vaporize us. Because I've looked into the alien thing, and I'm hoping that is going to be the end of our story.
Are you?
Yeah, I am.
I don't.
And I'll be the one going, guys, it's a cookbook. It's all right. I'm going. Let's go.
Pat, have you no thought given to that at all?
No, I don't think so.
No.
Really?
I really haven't.
I have. I really have. I thought to myself, maybe the aliens will come. That'll knock some sense into us. Maybe.
I mean, at this point, it's kind of our last hope. So maybe, I hope you're right, Glenn. I hope you're right. All right, we've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Issue, new sponsor to the show. First impressions are everything. And if you are looking to make an impact with your online content that you're doing, you need Issue. Issue is the easiest way to make your creative ideas come to life and share everywhere you want to be seen. It is the all-in-one platform to create and distribute beautiful digital content, from marketing materials to magazines, flipbooks, brochures, whatever you need. Obviously, PDFs are outdated. Well, PDFs are outdated. I don't know the PDFs are outdated because I can't use a computer. But I've heard from the white people that Issue makes content better.
It's amazing that she even knows those 3 letters, PDF. They're all in the alphabet.
I don't know what they mean.
Okay, all right.
I just know that they're a thing.
Right.
Issue also works seamlessly with tools you already are using.
Look at this. It's probably a Hispanic that named the company. They spell ISSUU. That's not Issue. It's a minority, either in the city or not in the city. That's just too stupid.
Right, one of the two.
Right.
You're using Canva, Dropbox, InDesign, things you're already using. It seamlessly integrates with your content, is already optimized for engagement and ready to share. You got to go to issuu.com/podcast. Use promo code news at checkout, and you will get a free account or 50% off of a premium account, depending on which one you would like. All you got to do is go to issuu.com/podcast. Use promo code news at checkout for a free account or 50% off a premium. Back in a minute. The feds are finally investigating Governor Andrew Cuomo of New York and his administration over the nursing home deaths amid, of course, the claims of a cover-up. I can't help but think that Stu Burguiere is somewhere smiling.
He is.
Reading about this.
Bada bing! The dumbest governor, the dumbest mobster on earth, Andrew Cuomo. Who would have seen it coming? Who would have seen it coming? Certainly not his brother.
No, not his brother, who, by the way, now, conveniently enough, CNN has decided to reinstate that ban on Chris Cuomo covering any news about his brother.
Wow, that's weird. So for an hour in prime time, they can't report on it. And I bet they want to really bad.
Really bad.
Especially his brother. He wants to report on that. So for an hour in prime time, it's like it didn't happen.
Well, the coverage that he had was so good. I mean, they did take a giant cotton swab and make fun of the size of his nose. So
can I tell you something? The stuff going around about Ted Cruz going to Cancun or whatever. Good for you, Ted. Bad for optics in today's world, but he has no responsibility. What is he going to do?
Yeah.
They make a big deal out of that. This guy, while people were dying, was pretending to write a book and then promoting himself and the book.
About how great, by the way, his response to COVID-19 was.
Yeah.
As people were dying.
Yeah.
Forget about the Ted Cruz thing. This guy had responsibility. He wrote a book about how responsible he was when he wasn't being responsible at all. And
I will say, though, none of this is his problem. He's not responsible for any of this. As he said in May, it's Donald Trump and the CDC who mandated that he do what he did.
It's not
at the nursing homes.
It's weird because then he was the only one that they mandated to do that. And it's really, Pat, stop trying to shove it onto Donald Trump.
Okay.
Donald Trump, it was really just a puppet of the
nursing home staff?
No, of the extremists that put him into office.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Those people who they're not looking for progress. They're looking to tear down progress.
That is true.
We got to stop those people.
That is true.
Well, the Democratic New York Assemblyman Ron Kim that kind of exposed all of this cover-up and the allegations surrounding it, he says that Cuomo threatened to destroy him. I personally believe every word of it because it's totally something Andrew Cuomo would do. Listen.
Bada bing.
He asked me to lie to cover up for his staff. And this was done in front of my family. He called me. My wife was right next to me. I was right about to bathe my kids, and it really just put my family and my wife into shock and trauma for many hours, and she couldn't get any sleep that night. And it's highly inappropriate, for the governor to have done that.
So he said he can destroy you. I mean, he literally said that, and what else?
He said, I haven't seen his anger, I haven't seen his wrath, and he will. Just tell me he will go out, and he's been biting his tongue, but he will go out tomorrow and destroy my political career, everything. Like, he would say how bad of a person I am to everyone in public.
Pat, my question is, who did Andrew Cuomo piss off so much that CNN and the Democratic New York State Attorney General, all of these people are actually reporting the truth on him?
Yeah, I think they've been forced into it because this guy's been lying on top of lies for a year now
Yeah.
on this particular scandal, and there's no. I don't think they can cover it up anymore. I don't think it's even
I
possible.
think they would like to, but
I think they'd
can't.
like
And,
to. It's
you
just
know,
too big now.
But here's the problem I have with this. That sounds so unlike a Cuomo.
Doesn't it, though?
Right? I mean,
it does.
Remember, his brother, somebody said something like at a tennis match or something.
He's
and
going to
he
throw
was
him
like,
down the stairs.
I'm going to throw you down the stairs. You know I am a pig.
Yep.
So this is very unlike Cuomo to
them.
do this. They are very reserved. It would be like a Kennedy, being involved with a mob. That's ridiculous.
Okay, but do you think that is this actually going to go anywhere? Because, they're like, okay, we're going to investigate it. But I tend to be a little cynical about stuff like this when it's a Democrat involved.
What?
I know. Shocking.
Really?
Yeah, because I don't have
I'm
any...
sure Adam Schiff is going to be on this. I think Adam Schiff is going to be all over this.
Yeah.
And, they actually talked about making him the Attorney General of California. I'm not kidding you.
What?
Not running for re-election and making him the Attorney General of California. You know who stopped it? Antifa and Black Lives Matter. They said, no way.
Really?
No way.
Wow, that's sad for Adam Schiff. That's a low day for Adam Schiff.
yeah.
Did you see that the recall petition for Gavin Newsom got the 1.5 million?
You know why? Because they don't have some abilities like the Cuomos do, You know what I mean?
Pat?
How do I follow that? I don't even know what to say after that.
Did you just see Andrew Cuomo and his brother in a meat locker
Yes.
beating up the side of beef
Yes.
and talking like Rocky Balboa?
Oh, for
Yes.
sure.
They
Yes.
are
Absolutely.
they are thugs,
Yeah.
and you know it. When he says, he threatened me. You haven't even seen my anger yet. That's absolutely plausible.
There's no doubt in my mind that that's how it happened.
Well, I'm not God, so I can't read what's in somebody else's heart, but you're right.
All right, we got to take a break. Back in a minute.
They're worse than Kennedys. They're like the Corleone family.
They really are.
They really are.
Hey, in case you missed it last night, you got to go back and catch Glenn's special from
It
yesterday.
is brilliant.
But, I mean, no bias at all.
Yeah,
from
no,
him.
that's from the theater critic.
But in all actuality, really, the kids are not all right.
The kids are not all right.
Kids are not all right.
Or look at what's killing our kids.
The kids are not all right.
They are not all right.
If they're being killed, they're not all right.
They're not all right. They're committing suicide,
Yeah.
and it's a relentless noose that is being put around our children's neck.
And still, by the way, the Biden administration, no plan to get our kids back to
I was
school.
just reading still 90%, right? 90% are still not back.
Yeah, it's truly
Well,
incredible.
it's very dangerous.
Oh, yeah.
Or not.
Yeah.
I talked to, my podcast comes out tomorrow, or today. I talked to Ben Carson. If you're a Blaze subscriber, you get it today. Ben is usually, not the most exciting guy. I was riveted. I talked to him for about an hour and 10 minutes, and when I finished, I looked at the clock and I was like, whoa. And he said, my gosh, that flew by. He was riveting and very clear on schools, on COVID. Remember, he's a doctor.
Yeah.
And very clear and had some really interesting things to say about what's going on.
Yeah.
Wow.
Make sure that you catch both of those. Also, if you have not yet subscribed to Blaze TV, I don't know what you're waiting for. You can go to blazetv.com.
They might be living in the woods and they're minorities and
Yeah.
they haven't
Right.
figured
That's
out how
true.
to use the computer.
That's
Or
true.
they could be in the inner city, or
Or-
they could be in the outer city.
Right. One of those
one
two.
of
One of the
places.
two.
On Earth, not on Earth, but they won't know. They're really
Go to blazetv.com and subscribe. We'll see you tomorrow.